Looks great. You can see the number of meatballs there. That's what I love about this dish, that as you eat through the pasta, it's not one or two or three just this size meatballs. You've got all these meatballs that hopefully in every bite you're getting one or two meatballs in your spaghetti and meatballs, which I'm saying meatballs a whole bunch of times. That's the point of this video. There's a whole bunch of meatballs. Everyone, welcome back to the channel. Rob here, Food, Wine, and Whiskey, and we are doing spaghetti and meatballs today. Very popular dish in America, American Italian dish. Hasn't become popular with me up until about a year and a half ago. I was never a fan, still am not a fan of the big meatball. Just texture-wise, just bite-wise, you know, the ratio of meatball to spaghetti in a bowl just didn't work for me until I was watching another YouTube channel, Not Another Cooking Show with Steven, and he made a dish with these small, tiny meatballs, and I said, hey, I could kind of get into that, I think. And I ended up making this dish and now have made it, you know, a dozen times over the last year and a half, and my family absolutely loves it. I can remember when I first went to make this, my wife, she saw me in the kitchen prepping. I told her I was making spaghetti and meatballs, and she saw what we're going to do today, which is make these tiny meatballs, and she was not happy. She's like, what are you doing? But at the end, she absolutely loved them. Now it's her go-to. When we have spaghetti and meatballs, same with my kids, they want the tiny meatballs. It's just a much better way to enjoy this dish. So let's get into it. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is talk about the meatballs, because this is really the labor. This is the work in this dish to get this put together, because we talked about they're small meatballs, right? You make big meatballs, goes pretty quick. Start making these tiny ones, takes longer, but I will say the results, the end product, absolutely worth the work you're going to put into it. So ingredients, I'm going to go 80-20. Actually, I didn't even notice this. I went 93.7 on my ground beef. I got about just at 2 pounds, and I'm going a pound of ground pork. We're going to have some eggs for binder. Got some Parmigiano Reggiano, a little ricotta, some breadcrumbs, and of course, a little salt and pepper. And this is what we're going to use, and I'm lying to you. We're also going to have some garlic, and I've got some Italian parsley we're going to dice up. That's all that's going into these small meatballs. All right, so we got our Italian parsley diced up. We've got a couple of cloves of garlic that we're going to use a microplane and mince into there. So let's set that over here. We're going to grab a bowl, and all the ingredients, the measurements for the ingredients and the ingredients will be in the description down below. So I'm not going to kind of go over everything and kind of eyeball this, but I'll let you know down below exactly what the ingredients are. So we are going to do some ricotta as part of our cheese. I'm going to go about 3 tablespoons. We're going to go some Parmigiano Reggiano. I'm just going to, can already smell that cheese. I'm just going to dump the rest of that in there. Breadcrumbs, I'm going to go about a little over half a cup. And then we're going to put our parsley in there. We're going to microplane some garlic. We're going to grab a spoon and just kind of get this all mixed together. And the reason I'm doing this first in a bowl ahead of time is so that we don't overwork your meat. Michael Scott. Because we want that meat to stay, you know, together as much as possible, not overwork it and mush it up too much. So by incorporating all these ingredients ahead of time, when we put the meat in, it'll just be kind of incorporating all of this into the meat, and we'll be ready to make the meatballs. All right, let's go with a couple eggs. All right, got our eggs in. We're just going to break these yolks and just kind of mix this all together. Let's go with our ground beef. Kind of break this up a little bit. Just so I know that, you can use just ground beef if you want. I don't think you'd use just lamb. I've never heard of anybody doing that, but I do know people who might substitute the lamb for veal if they wanted to. And some people use all three, a little pork, a little veal, and a little ground beef. So as far as the meat combination, that's up to you. And a lot of folks will also do, 1-to-1 ratio. If they're going to do a 1.5 pounds of beef, they'll do a 1.5 pounds of pork. I try to end up with about 3 pounds for this recipe. I'm going to have a lot of little meatballs, but I'm going to freeze a portion of those in the freezer. And that's another point to make is if you make a bigger batch, if you're going to be working, make a little bit bigger batch and then take some of those meatballs for that second serving, throw them in the freezer, man. I put them into a vacuum sealed bag, throw them in the freezer, and a month later, we want spaghetti and meatballs. They're done. They're ready to go. All I do is pull them out, let them defrost, and cook them up in the skillet. And then make the sauce again, of course. All right, we're going to get our pork, just kind of break this up. Okay, now we're just going to have some fun. We're going to get what's on the bottom, get it all up through here on the top, and just kind of mix this all in. And you'll be able to tell by looking that you have, your breading, the breadcrumb and cheese mixture kind of incorporated really well by just kind of seeing it throughout the meat. But you can see that I'm already getting pretty close after just, 30 seconds of just kind of pushing this through. And you can see that the meat holds its shape pretty well when we do it like that. So what I mean by holds its shape, you can see that it still looks pretty solid. Doesn't look like it's all mushed up and too mushy. You can also see that we've got our parsley and everything incorporated well into the meat. So I'm going to do a quick wash on my hands. We'll come back. I'm going to show you how we're going to make these meatballs. Okay, so making the meatballs. Here's your best friend. A 1/2 teaspoon, little measuring spoon to make the meatballs. That way they're pretty much consistent. You don't have to be exactly perfect, but you want them to be about that same size. Let's get into that. So what I try to do is just try to get it to where it almost looks like a ball, because you can tell that we're halfway down here. So if I get it to look like a ball, I know that's going to be my ball. Boom. And it goes out. So you can see once you kind of get going, as far as you can tell I've done this before, like I said. But once you get this process, this little method down, and you make your half, you kind of get that ball. I just throw them on there. It goes pretty quick. It's not too bad. And all we're going to do is do this until we have a full tray. Okay, so this tray is done. This is going to be for tonight's dinner. This is because it's been out, in the meat in the air for a while. It's gotten warmer, right? And then handling it with my body temperature has warmed up the meat. So what I'm going to do, I make this ahead of time, early. So this is a couple hours before dinner. Man, it's not even, what is it here? 3 o'clock. So we're about 3 hours away from dinner. So what I'm going to do is put this in the refrigerator and let it chill for at least an hour and a half. That way the meatballs will firm back up and get a nice texture to them, so that when we get ready to put them in the skillet and brown them up, they'll be ready to go. The rest of this meat, I'm going to go ahead and make meatballs with those, get them in vacuum seal, and put them in the freezer for another batch another day. But we'll see you back in just a bit when we'll start making that sauce. All right, we're back. Meatballs have gotten a chill for a little while in the refrigerator. We're ready to go to sear those off, get a little browning, a little crust on those. I'm going to warm up a pan here, get the flame on, get this burner on, and get a little oil in here, a little olive oil. We're just going to sear these off, brown them up a little bit on at least a couple sides, not all the sides, but get a little texture on them. And then we're going to, after we've seared off all of the meatballs, we're going to use that fond, that flavor that's in the bottom of the pan, to start building with our sauce. We'll get some onions, some garlic going, and then we'll get with our tomatoes and everything in there and start building that sauce. So, all right, got a little olive oil. Just going to put about 2 tablespoons. So we'll give this just a second. We'll let this get to the temp we need, and we'll come back and start cooking these off. Okay, we got our temp where we want it. Let's go ahead and start. You know what? I'm gonna grab a spatula. I think that'll be easier to put these in. So I'm just gonna little trick here. Obviously, we're gonna cook these in batches. Hopefully you can hear that sizzle. You see a little smoke. I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit. It's gonna take about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, you know, as I kind of shake them around a little bit, get them to change positions, get some more browning on them. Won't take long. These aren't big. We're not looking for them to cook all the way through either, obviously. Just like your other meatballs. They'll finish cooking in the sauce. So just trying to get some quick color, a little texture on these. And you can see those are already getting some nice browning and some texture. If you see that your meatballs aren't releasing, just give it a few more seconds. Won't take long. Once they kind of build up that crust on the bottom between the pan and the meatball, they'll release. Looking good. If you're looking in this pan, you can also see that fond. You don't want to get it too hot because you don't want that to burn. That's actually going to be flavor that we're going to use to, you know, add some depth and some flavor to our sauce when we get going with that. We're just going to grab a slotted spoon. I've got a bowl here. We're just going to, as we cook these batches, put them in this bowl. Eventually they'll go back into the sauce. Now we're going to get all those out. Now we're going to throw a little Greek fat in there. Turn this down. Come in with our scraper. Let's get some onions cooking. And we got tons of flavor on the bottom of this pan. So I did 1 whole sweet onion, about medium in size. I would, in the old days, call that a large, but man, I'll tell you what, onions today have gotten ginormous. I mean, I go to the store and onions are this freaking big. I still like them about this size. So that's what I used, was a sweet, call it a yellow onion. Once you put your garlic in, you're gonna let it go about 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, max 2 minutes. Just gonna let it get fragrant. So again, depending on your heat, how it's kind of reacting to it. All right, while that's going, we're gonna go ahead and get our tomatoes open. Okay, I use a, Cento is the brand. I mean, there's a lot of good brands. I've tried them all. I really like Cento, but I'm a bigger fan of the crushed tomatoes. I've heard so many people say that, you know, using whole peeled tomatoes and hand crushing them, you know, I'll drain off that water that comes in the can and do all that, but still it's not a consistency and a flavor I enjoy. I really just like the crushed tomatoes, so that's what I'm using here today. Oh yeah, smelling good. I don't even have to say it, you know. You know. All right, now we're getting our temp back up. Get that garlic to kind of release some of its fragrance and get in there. All right, we're gonna go in with some tomato paste. This will just kind of give it a little more richness, a little more body to it with those tomatoes. Went with about 2 tablespoons. Optional. My family and I like just a hint of heat. So we're going to do a little bit of red pepper flakes in there before the tomatoes go in. Now we're going to go in with our tomatoes. And I am making a mess in here, but it's a delicious mess. My wife will tell you, I don't know why. Every time I cook, something splashes, splatters, or pops up, or gets all over me, or all over someone. Now, because we're going to let this cook down a little bit, I am, to recover some more of this sauce, going to just put a little bit of water in here. Just like that. Because we know it's going to reduce and get thickened back up. All right. Meatballs going back in. Again, get all that flavor out of there. Because we just want to get these just kind of covered. All right, we're going to get us a little basil that we're going to put in here. Oh yeah, we'll put one right here. And we'll put one right over here. We do want a little bit of sweetness in there. So I'm going to take just the juice of an onion. This substitutes for sugar. You know, you have so much acidity in this. And some people will say a little bit of a effect from the can give it this kind of taste where sugar kind of balances it out. And then what I'm going to do, cut a piece of this rind off, 2 of them, and put them in there. And then we're just going to cover that up. Get a lot of flavor with the stems of this basil. You know, stems are where, in most herbs and everything, where all the flavor is texturally, and I get it. People don't want to eat it, but we're going to put just a little bit more water in there. Loosen up the bottom there, not really stir it. Again, trying to be gentle with those meatballs. Okay, as you look in here, you can see this kind of deeper red color with the sauce. That's the coloring like that is coming from that fond that we had on the bottom of the pan. So, you know, it changes the kind of the look, the color of the sauce. It's not bright red. Cooked sauce is going to change anyway. But the fond, that cooked kind of flavor in the bottom of the pan from cooking the meatballs is also contributing to that. But it's also a sign that there's going to be some great flavors in here. All right, we're just going, you know, it is called Spaghetti and Meatballs, so we're just going to go with a packet of spaghetti from H-E-B, our local grocery store here that we love. And on the pot back here, I guess you guys don't need to see me boil water. We're just going to cook the pasta. When we cook the pasta, I like to cook it about 2 minutes, minute and a half to 2 minutes shy of what they recommend, so that we finish it in a pan with the sauce and let it finish cooking there. So this is 10 to 12 minutes. So we'll cook it about 9 to 10 minutes and let it finish in the sauce. All right. Now we're going to come in here, and I know we're going to need salt and pepper. Just going to kind of see how much do we need. Yeah, we're going to need quite a bit, actually. Not a lot, but we definitely need to get some in there. I'm a pepper fan, and my family just has to be because I am. Let's get another spoon. Okay, that's perfect. Good to go. We're going to go ahead and plate up this first dish. We are ready to go. These have been cooking about 25 minutes. Okay, we are going to plate up. And so what I'm going to do is get some of the sauce, put it in here. Take a little pasta. Now, I don't like too much sauce. You know, again, people over sauce pasta. It's supposed to have that flavor. It doesn't need to just be the only thing that you taste. You want everything to marry and work well together. So it looks great. You can see the number of meatballs there. That's what I love about this dish, that as you eat through the pasta, it's not one or two or three just this size meatballs. You've got all these meatballs that hopefully in every bite you're getting one or two meatballs in your spaghetti and meatballs, which I'm saying meatballs a whole bunch of times. That's the point of this video. There's a whole bunch of meatballs in this pasta. Don't skimp on the meatballs. That's the whole reason we made them small, is so that you can have a bunch of them, right? Okay. Go a little Italian parsley. Okay. That's our spaghetti and meatballs. Looks great. You can see the number of meatballs there. That's what I love about this dish, that as you eat through the pasta, it's not one or two or three just this size meatballs. You've got all these meatballs that hopefully in every bite you're getting one or two meatballs in your spaghetti and meatballs, which I'm saying meatballs a whole bunch of times. That's the point of this video. There's a whole bunch of meatballs in this pasta. If you guys haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it if you do that. Like the video, hit the notification bell. You get notified when we put out new videos. By the way, coming up right after this, I'm going to, Food, Wine, and Whiskey, name of the show, going to pair a wine with this. One of my favorite wines that goes with spaghetti and meatballs. Going to be a video you can look for right after this. We'll let you know how this tastes and what wine we're drinking with it. Thanks so much for watching this episode. We'll see you all in the next one.